Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Off-Farm Income Podcast. Thank you very much for joining us here on our YouTube channel for episode number 839. Well, we're going out to South Dakota today. We are going to be talking with a young lady who has burst onto the scene in the welding industry. Makenzie Voss is coming on the show. She's got a really interesting interview all about achievement and doing things that you don't necessarily see a whole lot of females doing in industry. We're going to get that started for you right now. Joining me today is Makenzie Voss, and she is coming to us from Harrisburg, South Dakota. I'm assuming that's where you're at, Makenzie. I'm assuming that school is shut down for you, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
I actually go to college at Lake Area Tech in Watertown.
Uh-huh. And
so
did you get...
I'm up here right now.
Okay, so I know in South Dakota they didn't shut down everything like everywhere else. So did you get to continue through school throughout the coronavirus thing?
No, they actually shut us down, and it's online now, which is kind of hard. I'm studying welding.
Yeah.
So it's just a bunch of videos we have to watch. We can't actually do it.
Okay, but you live up there, so you just stayed up there.
Yep, and I work up here too.
Got it. Okay, so I will continue with your introduction. I just realized I didn't know that. So Makenzie is a former chapter vice president from Harrisburg High School in Harrisburg, South Dakota, and is now, as you just heard, studying welding at Lake Area Technical Institute there. Well, Makenzie, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, you bet. I have been looking forward to speaking with you, and as you and I know, there was a little snafu, but now we finally get to speak, so I'm happy about that. Well, let's talk about you for a minute. So when you are not away, when you're back at home, do you live on a farm, or do you live in town, or something kind of in the middle of those two things?
Well, my parents are divorced. My mom lives in town, and my dad lives on a farm, but we actually don't own it. We just rent and take care of it.
Okay. So you've had a taste of both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. That's kind of similar to the way I grew up. When I was in high school, my parents were divorced, and my dad was in town, and then my mom had remarried, and my stepdad had a small farm and had cattle. So that's how I got exposed and got interested in livestock and in agriculture and in all of that. So what kind of farming does your dad do on the place that you lease?
Well, he just takes care of the cattle, and we just kind of take care of the lawn and the house, too.
Got it. Okay. All right, very good. Well, now, when did you first become an FFA member?
Freshman year. My older brother kind of talked me into it, and he said, join FFA, it's really fun, and you'll meet people and go to competitions, and I saw what he did in high school, and I just wanted to join that, too. It seemed really fun.
Okay, so you joined up as soon as you were able, or was there a middle school chapter where you were from?
Oh, we only had high school.
Only high school,
so,
okay.
As soon as I could, yeah.
As soon as you could, and I'm assuming by what I see here on your resume that it paid off, that you enjoyed it and it was the correct decision.
Yeah, it was really fun, and I got to meet a lot of people, not only from my chapter that I wouldn't normally talk to, like if they're in other grades or anything, but I met a lot of people from around the state and around the country too, with different like nationals, and I went to WLC.
Oh, very cool.
The Washington Leadership Conference. So we went to Washington, D.C., and I met a bunch of people from like Oklahoma and just everywhere around the country.
I'm in Idaho. Did you meet anyone from Idaho when you were in Washington, D.C.?
I don't think so. It was mostly Southern people, and then I met one girl from Oregon.
Okay. Yeah, had you ever been to the nation's capital before that?
No, it was really cool to see that. And we got to do a lot of sightseeing and go to all the monuments and everything. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, it's a pretty special place, a lot of American history there, and of course the federal government at work, but it's quite a bit different than being out in the West like South Dakota and Wyoming, Nebraska, that area, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd never seen like a metro before. We don't have those. So.
Yeah, there's not too many buried trains in South Dakota that I know of that run underground.
Nope.
Same for me in Idaho. Not too much of that here. There's too much lava rock. I don't think they could do that. But yeah, that's great. Well, I'm glad you got to do that. Did you have any favorite competitions or anything that you kind of look forward to the most while you were in the FFA?
We did like separate competitions. Like the leadership ones were first in the fall, and then in the spring it was the hands-on ones. And the spring were my favorite ones. I did ag mechanics and natural resources.
Okay. So ag mechanics
in different years.
Different years.
Yep.
Okay. Now we're going to talk more about ag mechanics coming up because I'm going to ask you about your major in welding. But tell me about the natural resources competition. What did you do there?
It was a lot of identifying like birds, fish, insects, mammals, and trees.
Okay.
I think, and then there's a written test on it. Just different like questions on wildlife, and I was actually looking into doing that, like being a game warden for a career, but I decided to go the welding route.
Okay.
But I still like grew up hunting and fishing, and I thought it was really cool to learn more about it and get involved in that.
Oh, very cool. Good for you. Now, along the way, you became an officer. What inspired you to join the officer team?
I don't know how to explain it. I just like to stand up for what I believe in, and if we're making decisions, I like having a say in it. I don't necessarily need to be in charge, but I will take a leadership position if I need to. And I like being one of the officers that like help out the chapter and like make fun events for students to go to. And I don't know, being an officer was just a really fun experience, and you get close to the other officers, and I don't know, just
so this episode is my 835th episode of this show, and I don't interview just FFA students, but I interview 2 FFA students a week, and so I've probably interviewed I've interviewed 100 FFA students a year for 5 years, so 500 students or so. And that is the first time I've ever heard that answer, and I really like that answer, which is if decisions are going to be made, and those decisions are going to be representative of you because you're part of the FFA chapter, you want to say in those decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great answer. That is a very, very, really interesting, compelling answer to why to join the officer team, which is, hey, whatever we're doing reflects on me, and so I guess I should have a part in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for you. How many years did you serve as an officer?
Only junior and senior year.
Okay. And
so I was treasurer my junior year and vice president senior year.
Okay, very good. Now, did your responsibilities change a whole lot, or did the amount of say that you had change a whole lot from being treasurer to vice president?
Not really too much. It was mostly like we were just the officer team. So whatever we all decided was what we did. And it's not like president gets say over everything or vice president. It was just kind of our team just collaborated and made a decision on what we wanted to do.
Yeah, very good. Well, I know that you had at least one FFA advisor through that entire time, but I'd love to acknowledge all of the different FFA advisors that kind of helped you and inspired you through that time. Would you mind mentioning those people for me?
Yeah, we had Todd Marks. He retired the year I graduated, 2019. So he was there for a long time and kind of built our chapter up to what it came out to be. And Sarah Faster started, I think, my freshman year or maybe the year before that, and kind of helped him take over as he was going to retire, she kind of built up what she wanted it to be as our FFA chapter, and they both kind of worked together because we have, I think, one of the biggest chapters in South Dakota, if not the biggest. So they had a lot on their hands with organizing and everything. So they helped each other out, and the officer team kind of helped them out too with whatever they needed.
Yeah, very good. Well, thank you very much for acknowledging both of those folks. I want to take a quick moment and acknowledge the people who make this show possible. And, of course, that is Lacrosse Footwear, everybody. Done right since 1897, Lacrosse Footwear has been making quality boots for hunting, working, and tending the land for over a century. And you all know I love to talk about lacrosse when I do my FFA episodes because they're so proud to support the FFA by annually sponsoring 15 scholarships along with 100 jackets as part of the Give the Gift of Blue program. So please check them out. Please put a pair of lacrosse boots on your feet, everybody. You can find them at lacrossefootwear.com. And then, of course, Powder River Livestock Handling Equipment. It's that time of year. We're all getting up close and personal with our cattle. Whether we're putting in fly tags, we're giving shots, whatever it is we need to do, we need great livestock handling equipment to do that safely and to minimize that stress. And Powder River makes the products that you are looking for, and nobody makes them better. Please check them out over at powderriver.com. All right, well, Makenzie, let's talk about your supervised agricultural experience. So what was that during high school for you?
I think I just did my jobs. I worked at Subway like my freshman, sophomore year, and then I worked at Baumgars my junior, senior year, and I didn't have a lot of free time to do anything else, so I just used those. Subway was working with food, and Baumgars was like ag sales, like selling farm and home equipment.
Gotcha. Now, the tie-in with agriculture at Subway is pretty easy because if you walk into a Subway, you see all the vegetables laid out in front of you, and somebody had to grow those, right?
Yep.
But tell me about Baumgars and what you were selling there. Am I saying it correctly?
Yeah. It's Bomgaars.
Okay.
So there's not a lot of them. It's mostly Midwest, and Iowa is where we come from. But it's like selling tools, tractor parts, pretty much anything from like what you would need on the farm. We sold feed for animals, and like we had electrical and plumbing stuff. So it was kind of a all around store. You could just go if you needed something at home or on the farm.
So kind of a farm, home, and ranch store.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, did you go? So going into that job, you had all this array of products that you were selling. Probably some that you'd used before, and maybe some that you'd never used. Did you have a lot to learn?
Yeah, I kind of picked it up as I went. Whatever people were looking for, I tried my best to find it, and if they could describe it, I usually could find where it was just by how we arranged the store. So if they came in and said, I need a new tractor seat, then I know exactly where it's at. And I've seen most of the stuff before anyway, so it was easy to find if they needed it.
That's interesting. That first question is easier to answer, right? I need a new tractor seat. Where is it? And you can take them to it.
Yeah.
But then the next question, will this go on my tractor? Or how do I install this? That becomes a more complicated question, doesn't it?
Yeah. It depends on what kind of tractor they have, and they usually know what kind of seat they're looking for, and if we don't have it, they'll just say thanks and try to find it somewhere else if we don't carry it.
Now, you were able to keep a record book of what you were doing that led you to a proficiency award, correct?
Right.
Tell us about that. What was the proficiency award that you received?
I received first in ag sales my junior and senior year, so that was both at Baumgars. Just kind of working and helping out whoever needs it and throwing feed and being on the floor showing people where all our things are at. And then I worked on the register too. I was kind of wherever they needed me.
Mm-hmm.
I could just jump in and do pretty much anything in the store that they needed me to.
And so those first place finishes in your proficiency award, were they both at the state level in South Dakota?
Yeah.
Okay. And then did you ever go up and compete at the national level?
I don't think I did because
Go ahead.
I didn't go to nationals from my senior year. I was in college, so I didn't go the next year.
So it's interesting.
So
I'm looking at a list of proficiency winners or I should say proficiency award results from the National FFA, and they've got you listed as a bronze award winner for your ag sales placement proficiency. Does that ring a bell to you?
No, to be honest, I never really kept up with it.
Okay, so somebody on your behalf submitted what you were doing, and then you were recognized at the national level as well. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
So there you go. I'm the bearer of good news today.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Well, that's great. I'm glad you got to do that. Now, do you still you speak as though you still work for Baumgart's? Is that true?
No, that's in Canton, South Dakota. So it's like 15 miles from Harrisburg, going south. But I work in Watertown at Crenlow Engineered Cabs. So I weld different sub-weldments for cabs.
Okay. So that brings us to what you're studying in college, which is welding, and it sounds like you're already working in the industry while you're going to school.
Yep, it's welding for at least 12 hours a day, so I'm getting all my practice in.
Yeah, you are. So even with school shut down, are you still able to continue working?
I did get a temporary layoff at work, so I'm going back on Monday.
Okay.
I've been out of work for a little while just because they didn't have enough work for us to do. Because everyone is pulling their cabs off the line. That's what I was told, was there's just not enough business to keep everyone there for the whole time.
And is your job, is it part of your education? Like, is it an apprenticeship or an internship, or is it totally separate and it just happens to be in the field you're studying?
And it's totally separate. I just wanted a welding job while I was going to school just so I could learn how it is in industry and learn more about welding at school, like the different kinds, and get better at all of them.
And so you obviously knew how to weld before you went off to Lake Area Technical Institute.
Right. I took welding my sophomore year.
Okay.
Tara Faster taught me that class, and it was like me and 5 guys, I think. And then I wanted to learn more about it, so I took welding 2 and 3 at CTE in Sioux Falls. It's a career technical education academy.
Okay.
So I took that with Christopher Benchoff, and he taught us a lot about how welding is an industry. So I kind of already knew from that, and I just thought I'd love it. So I went to college for it, and I actually got the Build Dakota scholarship. So I have a full ride for welding because I won first in Skills U.S.A, the welding individual competition.
Good for you. Congratulations. Wow, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
How many people are you competing against in that Skills U.S.A competition?
At state, there's about 15 of us. And then I took first and went to nationals in Louisville. And I was the only girl there for high school or college. So it was a little intimidating.
So you're the only girl there in Indianapolis out of how many different competitors?
There's one from each state in high school and college, so about 100 or so.
Wow. Very cool. Good for you. People make a big deal about that?
Not really. Like, there was the people officiating the competition, not the judges, but they were just there like to help us out, and they kind of cheered me on. I didn't have my instructor there either, and everyone else did, so I was kind of just alone in that. And they kind of just were like, you got it, like, don't worry about it. So that was pretty nice.
Awesome. Good for you. Well, I would love to ask your advice for other students out there. You know, there may be some ladies that are coming up, maybe the freshman, sophomore year in high school or in FFA specifically, and they might be looking at some of these shop classes, and maybe they're intimidated, maybe because it's only guys, but they're interested in doing it. What advice would you have for them in terms of jumping in and taking these shop classes and doing this?
I would say just go for it if that's what you want to do. It's always good to learn different things, and if you want to take a friend with you, you sure can do that, but you don't need to. Just don't be afraid to be yourself and jump in there. And women are really looked for in industry, so if that's something you want to do, industry definitely welcomes you, and just go in and show those guys what you got.
Awesome. I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing this with us today, Makenzie. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us, everybody. Thank you very much to Makenzie Voss for coming on and sharing all of that with us today. And as always, enjoy your journey to the ultimate lifestyle business, agriculture.